When my husband called for Mama, she ran to my baby before I could move. And in that moment, I realized she knew exactly what she was doing. Good morning. Take a deep breath. Maybe sip something warm, because today's story might hit close to home. It's about a woman, a new mom, who thought she was rebuilding peace, until one moment shattered everything. If you've ever dealt with a toxic mother-in-law, or felt unseen in your own home, stay with me. This one's for you. I hadn't even unpacked all the baby clothes when my mother-in-law offered to come stay with us. She said she wanted to help. You'll need the support, she told me, already folding blankets I hadn't asked her to touch. And maybe she wasn't wrong. I was a first-time mom, exhausted, swollen, hormonal, and terrified I'd break my own baby. But from the very beginning, her help didn't feel like help. It felt like intrusion. Her name's Linda. Everyone calls her kind, helpful, generous, and to be fair, she can be. But when you're a new mother, barely holding it together, even well-meaning gestures can feel like judgment, especially when they come wrapped in passive-aggressive smiles and whispered corrections. The first red flag? It was subtle. The way she'd double-check everything I did. You're not putting too much lotion on, are you? She'd ask sweetly. Or, When I had my babies, I made sure they were on a proper schedule. Always with a smile. Always with that tone. If you know, you know. Have you ever felt tension in your own home? The kind that seeps under doors, that doesn't need yelling to hurt. That was my house, and I tried. God, I tried. I told myself she meant well. I brushed it off. I vented to my husband one night, whispering beside our sleeping newborn, and he nodded sympathetically, saying, "She's just trying to help. Can you try to be patient?" That stung, because what I heard was, "You're overreacting. You're the problem." But I swallowed it. I always did. I kept trying to be the bigger person. I kept reminding myself, she's family. And when she offered to stay longer than a few days, I said yes, even though my gut screamed no. Linda made herself at home quickly. She organized the kitchen, rearranged the baby's closet, and took over diaper duty with the air of a seasoned pro. And I felt like a guest in my own home, like I was being slowly erased, one baby wipe and folded swaddle at a time. There was one day, I'll never forget it, when my baby was crying inconsolably. I was holding him, rocking him, my shirt stained with milk, my hair in a sad excuse for a bun. I was exhausted, and she walked in, took one look at me and said, "Let me take him. He can feel your stress." Oof. It felt like a slap. I handed him over because I didn't want to argue, but inside, something cracked. Have you ever handed over your own child just to keep the... Told my husband we needed boundaries. Real ones. Not just, she means well, and she's your mom, kind of boundaries, but lines in the sand. I needed space. I needed respect. We argued about it, a lot, but eventually he agreed. He told her we'd appreciate shorter visits, that I needed to feel like a mom without supervision, and for a while, things got better, calmer, quieter. Then came the 1-year mark, a milestone, and with it, a new offer. Why don't I come stay for a few days to celebrate his birthday with you all? Part of me hesitated, but the other part, the part that still wanted to fix things, said yes. So she came. 5 days, just 5. I told myself I was stronger now. I had a rhythm with my baby. I could handle her. And for the first few days, I did. I let the little things slide. I bit my tongue when she criticized how I cut the fruit or folded the stroller. I smiled when she told me again that babies need socks inside the house, even when it was 29 degrees. Have you ever told yourself, it's not a big deal, just to avoid conflict, until it suddenly is? By day 4, I was worn thin again, but I kept pushing, because I wanted peace. I wanted my son to have a grandma. I wanted my husband to feel like his mother and wife could coexist. I didn't know that one word, mama, would break me. I wish I could say the visit stayed calm, that 5 days meant shared memories, hugs, laughter, maybe even healing. But no, this is where things started to shift, and not in the way I hoped. It was little things at first, always is, right? She'd swoop in to help just before I did something. I'd go to grab a bib, she'd already tied it on. I'd open the fridge for baby's food. She'd already heated something up, always one step ahead, always in control. And maybe that sounds harmless to some. Maybe you're thinking, she's just being helpful. But when it happens over and over, when you start feeling invisible in your own parenting, that's when it starts to break you. She'd narrate everything she did like I wasn't there. Look how Grandma feeds you properly. Grandma always knows when it's time for nap. In that sing-song voice, the one that pretends to be sweet but feels like a knife. This is where I started losing sleep, and myself. I started double-guessing every choice. Should I have spoken up more? Was I being petty, overly sensitive? She never yelled. She never said anything directly mean. But somehow, I was shrinking. There was one moment in the living room. My baby took a few wobbly steps, his first real attempt. I gasped, overjoyed, ready to grab my phone, record it, live in it. And she stood up and clapped. "Oh look, he walked to Grandma first," and then turned to me and said, "You'll have to try harder, Mama." With a wink. A wink. I laughed it off in the moment, but I cried in the bathroom that night, because that wasn't a joke. That's what this was. Constant emotional manipulation dressed up as maternal instinct. And I noticed something else, the way she played my husband. Every time we had a moment alone, she'd accidentally walk in. If we talked behind closed doors, she'd hover outside. She made herself present in every space, every silence. And then came the guilt tripping. "I just feel like I'm walking on eggshells around her," she told my husband one night, loud enough for me to hear. "I came to help, and now I feel like a burden." Classic. And he crumbled. He came to me with sad eyes, asking if I could just try to be more understanding. That word again, understanding. It was never, "Why is my mother acting this way?" It was always, "Why can't you handle her better?" I felt cornered. I was a mom, a wife, a hostess, and somehow, still, a child in my own house. Have you ever been surrounded by people but felt completely alone? I started counting the days until she'd leave, but even as the clock ticked toward day 5, I felt a sense of dread building in my chest, because I knew there was still one more blow coming. Something big, something final. And then it happened. It was a quiet afternoon. My husband was bathing the baby, and I was in the kitchen with Linda. I heard his voice call out, clear as day, "Mama, Bubba's done." I turned. I smiled. I was just about to say, "Coming, just a minute." But then, she ran. Before I could move, before I could speak, she sprinted to the bathroom. Not walked, not peeked in. Ran, like Mama meant her. And what kills me is, our eyes met before she did it. She knew what she was doing. That was the moment, the shift, the final act of a quiet takeover I hadn't seen coming until it was too late. I didn't follow her to the bathroom right away. I just stood there, frozen in the kitchen, my hand still on the edge of the counter, lips parted, heart racing. You know those moments when something snaps, but quietly. No shouting, no crashing dishes, just a sharp shift inside you, like a thread finally pulling loose. That was it. That was the thread. She had claimed my name. She knew my husband meant me. "Mama, that's mine. That's the one thing I'd earned with blood, milk, and sleepless nights." And she ran toward it like it belonged to her. Would you have snapped or stayed silent? I walked slowly to the bathroom. My legs felt heavy, like they didn't want to carry me into whatever I was about to see. She was there, kneeling by the tub, giggling with my baby, dabbing bubbles off his face like she was starring in some family commercial. He looked at her and smiled. She looked back at me, just a glance, and then she didn't move. She didn't say, "Oh, sorry, I thought he meant me." She didn't step aside. She didn't offer me my roll back. And I realized she never did. I walked in, knelt beside her, and picked up my baby. She hesitated, actually hesitated, as if she didn't want to let go. And then she stood, slowly. That tension in the air, it was thick enough to drown in. Later that night, I told my husband. Not gently, not softly. I didn't have softness left. I need to say this once, and I need you to listen. Your mother crossed a line, and I don't care if she was trying to help. That moment wasn't a mistake, it was a message. He stared at me. You're overreacting, and I lost it. Don't you dare tell me how to feel in my own house, with my own child. The tears came, hot, loud. Years of swallowing myself boiled over in that kitchen. I have bent backwards to keep this family peaceful. I've bitten my tongue so many times I taste blood. But I won't let someone steal the word mama from me, not even your mother. This was my breaking point, and that's when he said it, quiet, defensive. She told me, "You'll never be good enough for him." I froze. What? He looked away. Years ago, when we got engaged, she didn't think you'd last. Said you were too emotional, too modern, that you'd never be a real mother. The room spun, my knees went weak. That was it. That was the twist I hadn't seen coming. All this time, it hadn't just been petty competition. It was a silent war, and I was the only one who hadn't known I was fighting. Have you ever realized someone hated you, but smiled every time they saw you? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed next to my husband, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had failed, or if I had finally started fighting back. And in the quiet, I asked myself, why did I stay silent for so long? The answer, because I wanted peace more than I wanted power. But peace at the cost of your identity isn't peace at all. It's surrender. The next morning was quiet, too quiet. I moved through the house like a ghost, feeding my baby, folding laundry, wiping counters that didn't need cleaning. I was trying to feel normal, trying to be normal. But nothing about the night before was normal, and I knew something had to change, because silence wasn't peace, it was decay. I waited until Linda had gone out for a walk with her morning tea. Then I sat down with my husband again. My voice was low, steady. No yelling this time. No tears. I need this to stop, I told him. I'm not asking you to choose between your mother and me. I'm asking you to stand beside your family, the one you built, right here. He stayed quiet. He listened. That alone was new. I told him everything, not just the bathroom moment, but all of it. The subtle cuts, the constant control, the emotional erosion that had left me second-guessing. The bravest thing you can do. That evening, we had the conversation with Linda. I didn't go in swinging. I went in firm, calm, grounded, like a woman who had finally remembered who she was. We appreciate everything you've done, I began. But moving forward, our home needs space. We need to parent without interruption, without commentary, and without confusion over who Mama is. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, she didn't have a comeback. No passive-aggressive smile, no deflection, just a long pause. And a single, clipped reply, noted. She packed the next morning without fanfare, and when she hugged my son goodbye, I smiled politely. But I didn't shrink, not anymore. The days that followed felt lighter, not perfect, not fixed, but lighter. The silence in the house was finally the good kind, the healing kind. I started sleeping better, laughing again, even enjoying motherhood in a way I hadn't since she first crossed our threshold. Have you ever reclaimed something you didn't realize you'd lost, until it came back? That's what it felt like I'd found the thread again, and this time I was weaving my own story. I began journaling every night. 3 things I did right that day, not perfect things, not Pinterest mom things, just real things. I made him laugh during breakfast. I held my boundary when my phone rang during nap time. I looked in the mirror and liked the mom I saw. Day by day, those little wins became my foundation. My husband, too, began to change. Slowly. He called her less, checked in with me more. He didn't turn into the perfect partner overnight, but he turned into a present one. And sometimes that's even more powerful. One night he held our baby and said, "You know, you're doing a really good job." I didn't cry, I just smiled, because I finally believed it. Healing doesn't always look like a dramatic exit. Sometimes it's just saying, "No more," and meaning it. I know not every story like mine ends this way. Sometimes the mill never leaves. Sometimes the partner never gets it. Sometimes we stay silent for too long and the resentment becomes a permanent roommate. But here's what I've learned. You are allowed to draw a line. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to be the mother you want to be. And if someone calls you sensitive or cold or dramatic, let them. Because the moment you choose yourself, you win. Some stories don't end with fireworks. Sometimes they end with boundaries. And honestly, that's more powerful. It's been a few weeks since Linda left our home. There's still tension when we talk. There are still moments when my husband pauses before saying too much, like he's still adjusting to this new version of us. But there's also quiet, not the kind that suffocates, the kind that heals. We go for walks now. It's real life. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm actually in it. Not performing it, not defending it, just living it. To those listening right now, maybe you've been here too. Maybe your mother-in-law walks into rooms and takes all the air with her. Maybe your partner doesn't see the cracks until you're already breaking. Maybe you've tried everything, kindness, patience, silence, and still feel like it's not enough. I see you. And more importantly, I believe you. There's this thing we do as women, as daughters-in-law, as mothers. We try to hold it all gracefully, quietly. We carry the emotional weight of keeping peace, even if it means losing pieces of ourselves. But here's the truth I had to learn the hard way. Peace should not come at the cost of your identity. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to speak your truth, even if it shakes the room. You are allowed to say, "This hurts me," and not follow it up with an apology. You're allowed to be mama, fully, loudly, unapologetically. Have you ever let someone shrink you just to keep the peace? I did, for far too long. But when I stopped, the world didn't end. It began again, not with drama, not with a fight, but with a single, firm, quiet choice. No more. And that was the beginning of everything better. If you're still in the middle of your story, if you're exhausted, heart-bruised, and unheard, please know this. You are not alone. Your feelings are valid. And even if it's messy, even if it's hard, you can still take your story back. You can rebuild. You can redefine. You can protect your peace without apology. Ever dealt with a mother-in-law like this? Type yes in the comments if you've been there too. Let's talk truth and healing together. Because the more we speak up, the more we give others permission to stop shrinking too. This was your story time. I'm glad you stayed. Now, go reclaim your space. You're doing better than you think. And Mama, you've got this.